All right. It just honestly, this probably be the first of two videos we put on here. But for this morning, maybe or today at least, um, Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse number 8 says this: "And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go return into his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart." Man, what a verse. "And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return into his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. And it shall be, when the officers have made an end of speaking to the people, that they shall make captains of the armies to lead the people." One of the absolute first, and the same rule applied when we study the Bible. We find that Gideon, whenever he was about to lead his army out uh, to fight the Midianites, the Lord did the same thing. He said, "Look, Gideon, first thing I want you to do is look at the people, all the people that are fearful, faint-hearted, the ones that don't want to fight, the ones that are going to promote fear. Let them go. Send them home." Probably the greatest plague, uh, or the greatest cause for defeat in a cause, or in a campaign, uh, is fearfulness. Um, the most often repeated command throughout the Bible is to fear not. Fear itself is not a bad thing. God gives us instincts. God gives us a certain degree of fearfulness, but the Bible tells us to cast our care upon Him, for He careth for us. Don't think for one minute that when David went down into the valley of Elah to fight the giant, I mean, fearfulness easily could have gripped him just the same as it had gripped the entire population of the Israeli army at that time. King Saul himself, and so every day that giant Goliath would go out and he would threaten the people and swear at the people, and he would show off his prowess and his great strength and his armor, and man, and he had the entire army paralyzed with fear. Um, Psalm 23 says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." That word fear there in the Bible means to be paralyzed. It means to be shut down, to just not be able to function the way we're supposed to do. And so there has to be a absolute uh, hatred or disdain of the element of fear that causes a person to shut down. If I'm not a carpenter, but I do some carpentry. But the fear of failure as a carpenter would keep me from doing any kind of a carpentry. I would never pick up a hammer. I'd never run a screw. I'd never take a measurement. I'd never cut a board. Any of that stuff. Fear, man, will absolutely cause you to just be inadequate in every area of life. I hate plumbing. I despise trying to do plumbing. And man, every time I glue together a fitting or whatever else, I step back and I just wait for the leak. I wait for it, but I don't stop doing it. I'm not going to let my fear keep me, or I'm not going to let my fear cause me to have to pay somebody else to do a job that I can do. Fear is absolutely uh, it's a plague. And so he said, "I want you to send the people home." Let me give you a verse real quick here. There's a lot of verses we can look at on fearfulness, but Revelation 21:8 is an incredible verse. It says this: "But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death." My whole life long, anytime I ever reference this verse, you know, the tendency is to overlook the first cause there of condemnation, and that is the fearful. The fearful. You would think that unbelieving would be first in the list. You would think surely that abominable would be first in the list. You would think that murderers or whoremongers or sorcerers, or idolaters, or liars would be first in the list. But God puts first in the list the fearful, the fearful. If you study the Word of God, you'll find that the nation of Israel went into sin because of fear. They wandered for 40 years in the wilderness after they sent the 12 spies in. Joshua and Caleb came back, and Caleb was very adamant about the fact that we needed to go forward and that God would give the children of Israel the victory. But the other 10 spies said, "No, man, there's giants in that land. Hey, they'll eat us alive. They'll devour us. They'll destroy us." And so those 10 spies caused fearfulness to grip the people of Israel, the children of the Hebrew children, I should say, to cause them to doubt God, to cause them to come to the conclusion that God wasn't able. There's a point in time in the life of David, whenever David woke up one morning, I suppose, after some meditation, he said, "There's nothing left for me but to flee into the land of the Philistines. The only way I'm going to escape the hand of Saul is to go to the Philistines." Man, God had taken care of David every every step of the way. God had provided for David. God was never going to fail David. But for some reason, the great champion here at the Valley of Elah that went down to fight Goliath, all of a sudden he decided, you know what? The only thing I can do is go join up with the enemy. I have to go join up with the Philistines. And man, David fled Israel and went off and joined up with the Philistines. The children of Israel, whenever Moses was up on the mountain, and after for so long when he was receiving the 10 Commandments, the children of Israel come to this conclusion that, hey, we're out here in the middle of the desert. We need someone to lead us. We need a God. We need something to look to. So they went to Aaron, and Aaron, out of fear of the people, out of fear of retaliation by the people, he made them a brazen an idol, not a brazen serpent. He made them a calf of gold out of their jewelry, and they began to worship that thing. Why did they do that? Every case of idolatry, of idol worship in the Old Testament, goes back to the fact that the children of Israel were fearful or afraid that God couldn't take care of them. And so that brings me to this conclusion. We live in a day and a time where, more than any other that I've ever known, fear is so promoted, and it's gripped the hearts of God's people. God's people have become fearful and afraid. I'm sitting here getting ready to go into Lowe's and get some supplies, but on the way here, I drove by one of these fitness joints, 24-hour a day thing. It's Saturday morning. The place is absolutely packed. People are in there, they're whatever on their machines and just breathing on each other and all that stuff. And man, they're not afraid. Well, they're afraid not to go. They're afraid, not to get their exercise in, whatever else, but they're not afraid to go in there. But yet, still today, because of the effect of the propaganda campaign of the devil of the last few years, God's people are still afraid. I don't know if I ought to go to church or not. I don't know if I ought to get around all them people or not. Man, they'll be in there singing praises to God, and they'll be in there shaking hands. And well, I think I'll just stay home out of fear. I promise you, that's wicked. That is wicked and devilish. And man, the devil has scored a victory. And I'm not telling you that you're wicked, but I'm going to tell you something. Giving in to fear and promoting fear and fear mongering is wicked. The news media is pretty well given over to this idea that, man, we're just gonna create as much fear. We're going to manipulate people. We're going to control people, and that's what it's all about. The whole idea of fear mongering and provoking fear and pushing that agenda is to create an attitude of control and of desperation, get people on the run. I want to say this real quick, and I got to close. Stand your ground. Not having done all to stand, stand therefore. Listen, we need to have our loins girt about with truth. We need to stand in the name of God and believe in God. We serve the true and living God. When David went down to fight at Elah, to fight the giant, he went down there in the name of his God. He went down there with the confidence that God would deliver him. Saul said, "Look here, put my armor on. Try my armor on." David said, He tried. He said, "But I've not proven these. I don't need this junk. I don't need this stuff." He said, I've got my sling here. More than that, though, he said, I've got God, or God's got me, I should say, and I'm going to trust in Him. I'm going to go down and I'm going to fight the fight. Let God get the victory. Let God get the glory. Gideon had to learn that. David had to learn that, and you and I are going to have to learn that. We're going to have to learn. I just don't know what I'm going to do. My whole lifetime I've heard that nonsense. And greater is He that's in you than he that's in the world. Faith is the victory that overcomes the world. Amen. We need to put our faith and trust in God, and I mean genuinely trust in God. No weapon that's formed against us shall prosper. Brother and sister, brothers and sisters, we need to learn to trust in God again and believe in God. I don't know what else to say except don't be influenced by fearmongers, and please, for the love of truth, do not be a fearmonger.